Some people think they know New Jersey. They've driven its highways, seen its beaches, maybe even passed through its forests. But they didn't stop long enough to hear what still lives there. Because deep in the Pine Barrens, in the ruins of old hospitals, and along roads that disappear from GPS, there are places that have been erased from the map, but not from memory. Children vanish, warnings are carved into trees, and in some towns, entire blocks have been boarded up. Not because of poverty, but because of something that moved in. Ask locals and they'll tell you, some stories get whispered to scare kids. But these are the ones even adults don't want to repeat out loud. Tonight, we'll go beyond the legend of the Jersey Devil and into 6 mysteries so disturbing, the state itself would rather you forgot them. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, and don't look back. Because after this video, you'll never see New Jersey the same way again. The disappearances at Ong's Hat, Burlington County, New Jersey. You won't find Ong's Hat on most maps. You won't find a town sign or a single mailbox. But that doesn't mean no one lives there. It just means you were never supposed to come looking. Deep in the Pine Barrens of southern New Jersey, past sand trails and sunken roads, lies the site of a town that no longer exists. Ong's Hat was once a quiet settlement in the 1700s, just a few cabins, a tavern, and whispers of something strange in the woods. By the 1930s it was gone, no buildings. No official explanation, just stories, and a growing number of people who disappeared after going there. The earliest mention of Ong's Hat is tied to a man named Jacob Ong, a Quaker who moved into the region around 1760. Legend says he tossed his hat into the air one night in frustration, and it landed high in a pine tree. Locals started calling the area Ong's Hat, and the name stuck. But by the late 20th century, the name had taken on a much darker meaning. In 1978, 2 Princeton graduate students vanished during a weekend camping trip to the Pine Barrens. Their last known location, according to a disposable camera recovered from their car, was a sandpath marked only with a crude spray-painted symbol, a circle inside a triangle. One of the final images on the roll, a photo of an old windowless shack, no doors, no path, half buried in vines. Search teams found nothing. Not the shack, not the students, just a patch of scorched earth and one melted wristwatch, still ticking. Then came the pamphlets. In the early 1980s, conspiracy zines began circulating through college campuses and mail-order catalogs. The title was always the same: Ong's Hat, Gateway to the Dimensions. Inside, the pages told of a secret scientific collective that had taken over the ruins of Ong's Hat decades earlier. According to the story, they discovered a way to open portals between realities and built a device called the Egg, buried deep in the Pine Barrens. Some believed the scientists were from Princeton, others said they were military. The theory, they had opened the gateway, and some of them never came back. At first it sounded like a hoax, a sci-fi story disguised as fact, but then people started going missing again. Between 1983 and 1997, 6 hikers, 2 off-grid campers, and 1 documentary filmmaker vanished within a 10-mile radius of the original Ong's Hat site. None were found. None left messages. Left. But in 1995, a police helicopter conducting a thermal scan picked up a heat signature near where the shack had allegedly been seen. Perfectly square, buried under 3 feet of soil. When ground teams arrived, the signature was gone. In 2001, a man named Thomas Appleton, an amateur cryptographer and survivalist, claimed he found one of the structures described in the original pamphlet. He posted coordinates online and invited others to join him. 2 people responded. They met at a gas station in Mount Misery. Appleton was never seen again. One of the other 2, a woman from Trenton, later posted anonymously on a fringe message board. It wasn't a building, it was a feeling, like the woods weren't big enough to hold what was there. Today, the stories of Ong's Hat live online, archived in forgotten forums and scanned zines. The original pamphlets are nearly impossible to find, but the coordinates are still whispered, passed between hikers, researchers and thrill seekers who want to test the limits of what's real. Some go, some come back, and some come back different. Because Ong's Hat may never have been a town. It might have been a doorway, one that opened once, and still cracks open when no one's watching. Some places aren't erased. They're hidden on purpose. The Phantom Train beneath Jersey City, Hudson County, New Jersey. Some trains carry passengers, others carry silence and never stop moving. Beneath the streets of Jersey City, there's a tunnel that no one talks about anymore. It doesn't appear on modern maps, no lights, no access signs, just rusted steel and dust. And a sound that still returns every night at 3:14 a.m. It's called the Waldo Tunnel, part of an unfinished train project from the late 1800s. Originally meant to connect inland freight with the Hudson docks, the tunnel was carved straight through bedrock, wide enough to carry coal cars and military transport. But the project stalled in 1908 after a series of cave-ins and engineering failures. Officially, construction was abandoned in 1911, the entrances were sealed, the blueprints locked away, and then it was forgotten until the sounds came back. In 1975, during a renovation of sewer lines near Palisade Avenue, city workers broke into a chamber roughly 80 feet below the surface. It wasn't marked on any plans. The space was dark, damp and curved, clearly a tunnel. They lowered a flashlight into the hole and heard a whistle, not air, not gas, a train whistle, old, long, echoing from deep inside. The crew sealed the break immediately. But one of the workers, a man named Carlos Benitez, later went back alone with a recorder. He never came home. His body was found 2 days later, just outside the construction site. No wounds, eyes open, face frozen in what the coroner described as a look of awe and terror. In his hand was the tape recorder. The tape played only one sound, a slow grinding chug, and a woman's voice repeating the word home over and over again, growing fainter each time. In the decades that followed, residents in the surrounding blocks began reporting strange disturbances in the early morning hours, vibrations, shadows moving across basements, and most disturbingly, a low mechanical rumble always around the same time, 3:14 a.m. In 1992, a graduate student from Rutgers studying urban acoustics tried to record the phenomenon. He placed 4 microphones around the suspected path of the old tunnel. Only one recorded anything. At 3:14 a.m. sharp, the mic captured a 12-second burst of rhythmic metal-on-metal, followed by what analysts described as the sound of steam venting, the kind used in pre-1920s locomotives. No trains operate in that sector, and the ground beneath is classified as non-functional infrastructure. In 2006, city officials conducted a quiet scan of the area using ground-penetrating radar. The report, leaked years later, showed a tunnel system over 2.3 miles long with sections still intact and a single object-shaped anomaly moving slowly across one portion of track. They labeled it a scan error, but the data was pulled from the city archive weeks later and never re-uploaded. Since then, several urban explorers have tried to locate access points to the Waldo Tunnel. Most find collapsed shafts and sealed walls. One, however, a woman known online only as Vex9, claims she reached the tunnel in 2017 and heard the train. She posted this: "It didn't feel like it was coming toward me. It felt like it was circling, like something lost or remembering its route." She deleted her account 3 days later. No one's heard from her since. Today, locals say you can still hear it, especially during storms, especially if you stand over the manhole cover at Waldo and Montgomery just before dawn. You'll feel it before you hear it. The rails still humming, still waiting for passengers who were never meant to arrive. Some tunnels close forever, others never got the chance. The whispers at Shades of Death Road, Warren County, New Jersey. Some roads lead you home, others follow you back. There's a narrow, twisting road in Warren County, New Jersey that runs for about 7 miles along the edge of Jenny Jump State Forest. On paper, it's just a rural stretch called Shades of Death Road, and no one really knows why it's named that. But the people who've driven it, they say the name isn't a warning. It's a description. Local records mention the road as far back as the 1850s, when it connected farmland and mining camps near Ghost Lake. But even then, it had a reputation. Stories of travelers going missing. Wagons found with no horses, no passengers, just drag marks that led into the woods. By the 1930s, the disappearances became more frequent and modern. In 1937, 3 men were found dead in a car at the southern edge of the road, all with slit throats. No weapon recovered, no footprints outside the vehicle. Police blamed bootlegging violence, but no suspects were ever named. Locals gave the stretch a nickname, the Strip of Silence. And then the whispers started. Beginning in the 1970s, drivers began reporting unexplained voices inside their vehicles while traveling the road, most often late at night or just before dawn. The pattern was always the same. Static on the radio, headlights dimming. Then a voice. Always soft, always unintelligible, like someone trying to speak from beneath water. In 1982, a local high school teacher named Miriam Vale recorded one of the voices on a cassette deck. She was driving alone at 3:12 a.m. and felt her car go cold, even though it was July. She later wrote, "It said my name." 3 times, first like a whisper, then a breath, then like it was inside my ear. The tape was analyzed by state investigators. They ruled it inconclusive. Then they lost the file. In the late 1990s, paranormal groups began visiting Shades of Death Road regularly. Some captured EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. Others claimed to see figures darting across the road, always described the same way, pale, barefoot, mouth open like they were trying to scream but couldn't. One team found an old Polaroid nailed to a tree at mile marker 5. It showed what looked like a woman standing in the middle of the road, with no eyes. They went back the next day to take more photos. The tree was gone. Here's the part that still confuses investigators. In 2003, a state patrol officer filed a report after stopping a car that was idling with no lights just off the road near Ghost Lake. The engine was running. The driver's door was open, but there was no one inside. The vehicle belonged to a man named Craig Whitley, 41, of Trenton. He had no criminal record. He'd never been to Warren County. His cell phone was in the passenger seat. To this day, he's still missing. The case is marked inactive, but officers who've worked that beat say they don't linger on Shades of Death Road during night patrols. One said anonymously, "It's not just a place, it's a voice, and once it finds you, it doesn't forget your name." Today, thrill seekers still drive the road with voice recorders and night vision. They joke, post TikToks, challenge each other to get out of the car. But the locals, they don't laugh. They lock their doors, roll up the windows, and keep their eyes on the center line, because if you listen too closely, you might hear it whisper back. Some roads carry echoes, others carry names. Yours might be next. The Burned Man of Pine Haven Asylum. Passaic County, New Jersey. Some places are shut down. Others are sealed for a reason. Nestled deep in the northern woods of Passaic County, surrounded by chain-link fencing and warning signs long faded by weather, sits the skeleton of what was once Pine Haven State Asylum, a psychiatric hospital closed in 1966 after a fire gutted one of its wings. Officially, the fire was blamed on faulty wiring. Unofficially, it started in room 313 and they never found the body that was supposed to be there. That patient's name has been erased from most records, but among former staff and locals, he's still known by one name, the Burned Man. Pine Haven opened in 1911 as a long-term care institution for incurables and criminally unstable individuals. For decades, it housed violent offenders deemed mentally unfit for prison, many sent there from Trenton State Hospital. In 1959, a new patient was admitted under the ID, MH3327, male, mid-40s, no listed next of kin. He had no fingerprints on file, and his intake form listed only one note in the psychological evaluation section. Refuses to speak, draws flames in every session. Over the next 6 years, orderlies reported strange behavior in the wing housing MH3327, Lights flickering, sudden power losses, other patients screaming in the night, always at the same hour, 3:17 a.m. Then came the fire. On November 14, 1966, a blaze broke out in the West Wing. It spread with unnatural speed, consuming most of the upper floor. 4 patients died, 6 staff were injured, but room 313, where MH3327 had been held, was entirely blackened. Walls charred, bed frame melted, no body, not burned, not even a trace. A single item was recovered from the room. A drawing, burned around the edges but still visible, a stick figure surrounded by flames, and dozens of tiny outlines of people with no faces floating above the fire. Pine Haven was shut down less than a month later. No ceremony, no press coverage, just boarded windows and a padlocked gate. But the activity didn't stop. In the early 1980s, hikers began reporting strange heat signatures in the woods surrounding the asylum, visible through fog, even during snowstorms. Urban explorers who entered the site described rooms that were still warm, as if recently occupied, even when outdoor temperatures were below freezing. One explorer, using the alias Greywire, posted a now-deleted blog entry after sneaking into the West Wing. The doors are still melted, the walls smell like burned leather, but the floor, it was warm, like someone just walked through. In 2004, a paranormal researcher recorded thermal anomalies in the building. His footage shows a humanoid shape in the hallway, not cold, not neutral, but hot, nearly 170 degrees F, standing motionless at the far end of the corridor. He left the camera running overnight. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the screen goes black for 6 seconds. When it returns, the hallway is empty, except for a handprint on the lens, scorched and dark. In 2011, a group of thrill-seekers broke into Pine Haven and lit a flare in room 313 for a photo shoot. The flare ignited instantly and exploded, causing minor injuries. But what's disturbing is what appeared in the photo seconds before. A blurry figure standing behind them, head down, arms out, and completely engulfed in fire. The state declared the asylum structurally unsafe in 2013, but no demolition ever occurred. Locals say the permits keep getting delayed. Contractors walk off the job without finishing surveys. Some say their equipment burns out. Others just stop showing up. Today, the asylum still stands, overgrown, collapsed in places. But room 313 remains almost untouched. Its door melted, its handle too hot to grip, even in January. And inside? Some say they've seen movement, some say they've heard breathing, and a few say they've heard crackling, like dry leaves catching fire. Some patients die and vanish, die. Others leave something behind that still waits in the dark. The Forgotten Prison Below Newark, Essex County, New Jersey. Some prisons keep people locked in, others keep the truth locked away. In the heart of Newark, below layers of concrete, forgotten sewer lines and city archives, there are whispers of a facility that never appeared on public records, not as a jail, not as a government site, not even as an address. They call it the Deep Hold. Its existence was first hinted at in a 1942 memo from the Essex County Sheriff's Office, referring to a temporary detainment structure located beneath Zone C. That memo disappeared from the county archive within a year, but it wasn't until 1986 that the mystery surfaced again. During excavation for a new municipal building near Broad Street Station, a construction team broke into what they thought was an old basement. Instead, they found a stairwell descending nearly 4 stories underground, stone iron barred and completely dry. At the bottom, 6 cells, rusted restraints, a central corridor with marks on the wall, like clawing. City officials sealed it off by the next day. No public statement, no follow-up in the local papers. But someone took a photo and sent it anonymously to a journalist at the Star-Ledger. The photo showed a hallway lined with cells. The walls were scorched in places. And on the far end, there was what looked like a steel door welded shut, with the number 44B spray-painted above it. The article never ran. The journalist, David Monroe, was found dead in his apartment 2 weeks later. The cause was ruled a medical anomaly. His notes, typewriter ribbon, and negatives were missing. In the years that followed, weird reports came from the Broad Street area, especially at night. Security guards claimed to hear banging beneath their feet. Janitors said they found scrawled numbers and like inmate IDs appearing in the dust on storage walls, only to vanish the next day. And in 2003, a subway maintenance team filed a complaint about human sounds coming from a sealed maintenance hatch near the old tram tunnel. They reported breathing, slow, controlled, followed by 3 knocks, repeated every 47 seconds for over 8 minutes. City engineers dismissed it as pipe echo. But the file was marked classified, not closed. In 2011, a graduate student in urban anthropology named Marissa L., name redacted in reports, conducted her thesis on infrastructural voids in Newark's historical zoning. She used ground-penetrating radar around Broad Street Station. She found something. Our chamber, 60 FT by 40 FT, aligned with no sewer, water, or known tunnel grid. It contained 2 clear anomalies. 1, a rectangular metallic structure at the center. 2, a series of vertical lines etched into the perimeter, like bars. When she returned to scan it again, her equipment failed. 2 days later, she withdrew her thesis proposal. She never responded to interview requests again. What little we know now comes from an anonymous letter sent to the Essex Historical Society in 2017. It was typewritten, unsigned, and never verified. But it read, "They weren't criminals, they were experiments, and when it was time to shut it down, they didn't move the prisoners, they moved the entrances." To this day, no public infrastructure map confirms any structure below the Broad Street zone, but subway workers still report radio interference near the maintenance hatch. Sometimes they say their flashlights flicker, sometimes they hear footsteps, and sometimes they hear knocking 3 times, always from below, because some prisons were never built to hold bodies. The vanishing object over Wanake Reservoir. Passaic County, New Jersey. Some things fall from the sky, others hover, and never explain why. On a freezing night in January 1966, the quiet town of Wanake, New Jersey, became the center of an event that's still classified by some military departments and still whispered about by those who saw it. It was January 11th, just after 6:30 p.m., when a local patrolman named Joseph Cisco reported an intense bright light moving silently over the Wanake Reservoir. He radioed dispatch. "It's not a helicopter, it's too smooth and it's dead silent." Then, it just stopped, hovering. "It's lighting up the whole damn water." Over the next 40 minutes, at least 11 other police officers from different municipalities reported seeing the same object. It was described as oval-shaped, roughly 30-40 feet in length, emitting no sound but causing ice on the reservoir to crack. One officer, Lieutenant George Kerr, described the beam of light as intelligent. He said it followed his patrol car as he approached the scene. Another said it felt like being watched from something that wasn't supposed to be real. Local residents also saw it, including students, business owners, and a priest from a nearby church. All described the same shape, the same silence, the same sick feeling in their stomachs. Then, at 7:12 p.m., the object reportedly rose straight into the sky at impossible speed and vanished. But the real mystery didn't end there. The next morning, State Water Department workers inspecting the frozen reservoir discovered a perfectly circular hole in the ice, about 14 feet across, with no cracks leading to it, no debris, and no signs of melting. One worker noted, "It looked like something was extracted, not crashed, like the ice had been punched out from above." That section of the reservoir was closed for 72 hours. No samples taken were ever publicly released, but in 2001, a retired Army radar operator named Frank Redding gave a taped interview claiming that radar logs from nearby Picatinny Arsenal detected an object of unknown origin over the area for less than 6 seconds, just before vanishing off all tracking systems. He said, "It dropped below scan range and then it didn't come back. That usually means 2 things, underground or gone." In the years that followed, multiple Freedom of Information Act FOIA requests were filed. Most came back heavily redacted, listing the object as unconfirmed aerial anomaly. But one internal memo, leaked anonymously in 2009, mentioned potential correlation with prior aerial events near coastal water bodies. No further details were included. Locals still talk about that night. Some call it a UFO. Others believe it was a test craft from one of the military labs scattered throughout North Jersey. But none of the agencies have ever claimed ownership, and none have denied it either. There are still those who go out to the reservoir on winter nights. They wait. They bring cameras. Some even leave offerings near the waterline, small items they don't want anymore, just in case something comes back looking. Because what came over Wanake didn't crash. It didn't fall, it chose to appear. And whatever it wanted from beneath that ice, it got it. Some things vanish without trace. Others leave a hole and silence that never refreezes. 6 doors that were never meant to be opened, some locked by history. Others by something darker. From abandoned asylums and roads that whisper to prisons beneath cities and lights that defy physics, New Jersey holds more than legends. It holds secrets that never stopped watching. So the next time you pass an old building with the windows bricked up, or hear a sound underground that shouldn't be there, ask yourself, was that place abandoned or sealed? Because once you know what's beneath the surface, but you can't unknow it. Want more? Our playlist has real mysteries from every US state, from the cold woods of Maine to the deserts of Arizona. They're waiting. Lock your doors, put on your headphones, and don't look back. Because after this video, you'll never see New Jersey the same way again.